welcome to this week's edition of Players Parlor. Unlike usual, I am alone this week, so it's going to be a short, chilled episode. And I thought this week we'd do something a bit different than I usually do, which is just indie games. We're going to be doing Diablo 2 Resurrected. The reasoning is basically because I know this game quite well, and we're only going to be doing most of Act 1. It's only going to be an hour of playthrough, and we'll, as usual, just discuss how the game is, how it works, everything about it, and the history of Diablo 2 and why it has had such a deep cultural impact on the whole of the gaming world. Because even if you've never played Diablo or any of the other constituents in it, there's a very big chance that the games that you have played have been heavily influenced by it, either in their game mechanics or the story themselves. And as you can see, I'm choosing a sorceress today. I already have a barbarian, so if you are there, you can create your character now. Just press play and do all the fun things that you would normally do, of course. Diablo 2 is an interesting game. I was quite young when I first played it, and back then graphics were really bad as well. Like, you couldn't really tell what things were. There is a button to do that, of course. And if this is your first time playing the game, I do suggest talking to everyone. You can also see that there's like a gossip-ish option that you can choose. It's an interesting thing because the world of Diablo is actually quite expansive and deep. You'll see as we go along that almost every single character has something to say to you and do to you. And it's something that I've actually found in Diablo 3 and 4. Not every character has actual dialogue that you can read and, live through to create the world deeper. But as I said earlier, the game released in very early 2000s, not long after Diablo 1, and Diablo 1 was a very different game than the other ones. Diablo 1 was only in one place. It was here in Tristram, of course, where we are now. And it is genuinely the only part of the game. There is no massive areas that you go and search for. There are no deep dungeons, there are no deep caves, and that's where Diablo 2 came out. And now Diablo 1 was a very popular game in certain circles, but just as many people weren't aware of it at all. And it's something that I think a lot of people now forget about. But Diablo 1 wasn't as widespread as Diablo 2. I mean, Diablo 1, unless Blizzard actually released the game now early, I think they might have a small remaster somewhere along the line, or made a way to play it. The game is actually very difficult to find, and it's very difficult to play. I've watched a few streamers play it, and to say that they did not have a good time is a small understatement. So, as you can see, the game starts very early, and you'll notice that most of the time I'm not playing with both hands because I've played Diablo 2 enough times now to not really need it. There's very little high action impact states at the start of the game for me to really worry about. And this might be the same for you as well, as you'll find that the game is very different from Diablo 2 and 3 and 4 that you might be aware of, might be used to. Because Diablo 3 has a very deep story to it, and it's got a lot of characters to it. It's got fantastic graphics. This game also has fantastic graphics for the time. The story and everything was very, very unique. And the opening cinematics and the closing cinematics and the cinematics between acts especially are quite well known. Like, I've met many people that have never played the games, but they've actually watched the cinematics of this game. And it's very important to know that because it's kind of where Blizzard really started to shine. It's like, oh, they're the guys with the amazing graphics, and everything else going to push your computer to the extreme. Because, as I said, Act 1 doesn't really get very intense, but here by Act 2 and 3, there's almost as many characters on screen as there are in Diablo 3 at times. And the things are moving just as fast and they're just as intense. So you really need to know what you're doing and where you are where you are going and where everything is, where you are in the map is important as well, because I'm currently playing sorcerer, and barbarian are kind of like the two that I enjoy the most. Many times you'll actually find that they play the easiest, because at the end of the day you can strategize all you want, but with a barbarian all you need to do is hit as hard and as often as possible. That's basically it. You can use different chants and different shouts, and yes, they will greatly increase your strength, but most of the time you don't really need to worry about anything else. You don't really need to worry much about what else you are doing. Unlike with the sorceress, and I'd say the sorceress isn't as technical. She can be very technical. You do need to choose like a line that you're gonna go down now. You see, right now you'll actually see that it says I have not learned the skill yet, but I've been granted the skill by an item, right? So you can see that the short staff that I have grants 1 to fireball. So that's where I'm getting that from, right? Now, as you see here in the bottom skill tree, there's lighting spells, cold spells, and fire spells, and this is basically you need to decide now what to do. Most people I know choose fire spells. I prefer ice spells because they're just more fun for me. Yeah, it's basically all I can say. And what you can do is what makes a sorcerer so much fun is you can make both of her attacks basically. Both of her attacks, like right click and left click, can be fire spells. Something that's not always possible with all of the other characters, because take for example the paladin. You always need to have almost like basic attack set up for your right click. Otherwise you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna get overwhelmed by almost everything around you. And what's important to remember is, see, that starts happening, right? So that's why I usually have one of these, just so I can press 4, and there we go. Okay, so now that I've rambled a bit into into the start of the podcast episode, and we can actually start looking at the game itself. So on your left would be your health, and on your right would be your mana, or if you are playing a barbarian, you would have fury and a few other things. I think paladin has something different there as well. I can't quite remember, but most characters have mana, and mana is what drives all of your stuff. It's basically every single skill that you can use uses some amount of mana, and you'll also find that on the necromancer specifically, some of these beasts take up a portion of his mana. So if you have a skeleton that needs 10 mana, you're going to have 10 mana less automatically. It'll show you how much mana is being used, fortunately. So that is something that you need to be careful of. It's why the necromancer is considered to be one of the more advanced beasts to fight, since he does require you to know quite a bit of the game already. As you can see, there you go. Okay, so that's basically health and mana, right? If you click here on this is where your basic skills is. Most people just put attack there because that's all you need. Like with the barbarian, your basic attack basic is what you use for most of the game, and then you can put your skills here as well. And right now we quickly need to return to the town, and we're going to use a town portal for that. So scroll of town portal, right click it, and there we go. Easy as 1, 2, 3. And while we're there, we are going to talk to, I think we don't have anything that's unidentified. Oh, we've got one thing. So only at the start of the game, you need to use a scroll of identification. That's the red ones, to identify items that are rare. Obviously, a buckler is not going to mean anything for us, so we can come and talk to Akara. Trade, just boom, sell it like that. can press shift. Oh, wrong button. I can't remember the button to sell quickly. It's fine. We shall persevere. And something that I've always found interesting about about Diablo 1 specific, Diablo 2 specifically, is items don't stack the same way they do as in other games. Like in Diablo 1, no, Diablo 3, if I remember right, we can basically have about 20 of these potions with us at all times because things genuinely stack and they become more and more easier to manage. Where here in this game specifically, that doesn't quite happen. In fact, most of the time we're gonna be having to sort out all the items straight down. Okay, this is another thing that I always recommend doing as well. If you're playing a sorcerer, you need to get a belt as fast as possible. Normally, I wouldn't say don't buy anything because you're gonna pick up everything that you need throughout the gameplay and everything else. Unfortunately, sorceress is she's really she's not weak, but she is pudgy. I want to say not pudgy, but almost easy to defeat. Like she only takes 2 or 3 hits and then she's gone. She's gonna probably get killed. So unless there's that's necromancer stuff, right? And you need to be sure that what you are using and how you are fighting is actually properly what you want to do. Because the sorceress is, as I said, very complicated, and as you can tell, I'm trying to read and talk here at the same time. Okay, everything there is too expensive anyway, so you can just go back here to the town portal, and it'll take us back to where we need to be. And something else that I've noticed recently is that the new Diablo games, when I say new Diablo games, I mean specifically Diablo 4 does not have the same kind of town portal system that we have here. One of the important things about Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 as well is you can actually have a town portal open and then leave the town and go and come back to that town portal later. It's actually a valid strategy to do that. You open up a town portal, you go explore, you go back to town obviously. You go explore everything and you go fight a bit closer range, maybe do a quest, and then you use a normal teleporter to go back to town. You can still use the same town portal. It's what I used to do when I do dungeon crawling. Like what I would have done in this instance before I went into the Den of Evil is I would have, right at the entrance in Diablo 3 specifically, created a town portal and then explored the entire dungeon. And then instead of actually having to walk back from the teleport stations or anything else, because most of the time you could actually use a normal portal to return to town at the end of a dungeon or on the other side of a dungeon if it's one of the dungeons that goes through to another area, and then I can just jump back to the town portal that I opened up previously and go further exploring there, because I'm one of those people that like always grabs every single corner, goes into every single area of the map. And for Diablo 2, that's kind of important to do because, like with this quest right now, this is the first quest of the game, clear out the Den of Evil. You need to clear out every single monster in here. So just running through it to the end, a lot of people got very frustrated when I was young. And I feel like a lot of people probably still get frustrated because you can't just run to the end of the you cannot just run to the end of the map and think, oh, that's it, I'm done. I've explored the entire cave, so that must be the end of the quest. Now, the quest is specifically you must clear it out, which means you need to kill every single monster. And I can tell you, I've spent nights at a time walking through this place. looking for that last enemy that I defeated that's just not appearing. See, this is kind of why I say the sorceress is kind of difficult to play for, especially for beginners, because she doesn't really have enough mana to become effective for a long while. So you need to be a bit more strategic with what you're doing and how you are fighting things. Also, for anybody wondering, this episode is kind of a weird thing. Somehow the stars aligned, and not only could I not find a guest that was available, which obviously is fine, like I'm not expecting much here. Basically what happened is I also could not for the life of me find a good game to play, which sounds like, oh, that must be, it must be something that I know. I genuinely I couldn't find a good game that I knew well enough to play with ease. And this is one of those things, right, that I always forget about Diablo 3 is we don't have the QWERTY buttons. So in Diablo 4 and 3, you can use Q, W, E, and R for 4 quick skills. And I always forget that in the Diablo 2 you can't. So you're kind of stuck. So as you see, I'm starting to move more into firebolts. And I need to do this as well. That was the wrong button. But basically what it comes down to is I need to start using only one attack. I can't dual wield fire anymore, specifically only because the skills are becoming a bit varied, and I need to use more than just the one skill, you know. So it becomes significantly slower as we move through the game. And what I've seen some people do is they play the sorceress with a short sword, which is very valid. You can do that. And then you just have your magic attack or your magic defense on the other hand. It'll be pretty effective, but it's not exactly why I play her. I specifically play her because she's got she's the only one with these kinds of sorceries. And as I said earlier, the Necromancer is very similar, but the Necromancer is also one of those characters that's very difficult to keep track of when things start going down. Because genuinely, he's difficult to see because he's got his own 50 skeletons running around. And then the game enemies have 500 different skeletons running around, and you end up with this chaotic, just chaotic bunch of monsters and creatures and everything running around, and you genuinely struggle to see, hey, where's your actual character? Is he fine? Is he getting stuck behind something or not? Hey, okay. We're nearly done with the Den of Evil, by the way. It's not a very big area. It's not a very difficult area as well, as you've probably noticed with the fact that. And there we have something that I feel everybody should know. This blue monster there, that's actually a boss monster or an elite monster in this case. Not quite a boss, fortunately. And Diablo kind of spawns them randomly. And as we're talking about randomly, we also I need to mention the other most important part about the game is you will not have the same map that I do. No two people ever has the same maps unless they're literally on the same map playing together. And it's kind of one of those things that made Diablo so much fun to replay over and over and over again because yes, the quests stay the same and the story stays the same, but one map would throw out the Den of Evil almost right next to the rogue encampment. The next time you play with a different character, which could be anything that you want, the Den of Evil is literally spat out on the other side of what feels like the other side of the world, and it takes you about 2 hours to actually find it. Obviously, 2 hours is a bit extreme, But I was young when I last played it, so I was not the fastest player. And of course, there we go. See, as you can see, we're getting quite fully equipped now, and you can actually see that my character is wearing some of the armor and some of it's not. Like she's wearing the helmet, which I always find the weirdest part to wear. This is like probably the one part I don't really care about. So I'm going to take this a bit slow. I'm not going to start the fight with casting magic everywhere because the zombies miss his power as much as I miss. So it's very useful to not waste magic on them. You see, the mission just updated there. So we also now know that these are the last few enemies. And the zombies are very easy actually to fight, especially when they're just plain normal zombies. So there we go. Now we can switch to Ice Bolt, and there we go. Now, there's going to probably be 20 different people telling us what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing, but this is, after all, just play as Parlor, so we're just having a good, nice talk about the game and what it is. And one of the reasons I kind of chose it is because I do know it quite well. Like, I've played Diablo 2, I've played more than any other Diablo game. I played it over and over and over again. I have the unique distinction that even though I think I've started every single class that this character has over and over again, I've never actually completed the game. I've only seen the cutscenes because I usually get to around Act 3. And, well, what used to happen is I got bored, and nowadays I just get too busy to continue playing the game. So, also, what happens is I lose my saves. I don't know why. I always lose my saves for this game. I mean, right now it's a digital game with digital everything, and I've lost the save for my main paladin that I had on this game. So it's a bit of one of those, oh, so it's genuinely an issue, a problem, a challenge that I need to start thinking about, but it's still fun. So this Jewel, right? So if we talk to her, Misk. So I buy one of these because they save about a ton of space. Also, we can sell this. Buy this. Yes. Okay. That has like 3 of them. We do need town portals. So a book of town portal can hold 20 town portals for you, and it means that you no longer need to take up inventory space for them. You do not need a tome of identify, because one of the characters that we should reach, hopefully before the end of this stream, so I want to say stream, we're not streaming. This episode of the podcast is Deckard Cain, and he is one of the mainstay characters for Diablo 1, 2, and 3. He's basically the guy that identifies everything for us. Bit of a spoiler, he does die in this Act 1 of Diablo 3. And that is, yeah, it's one of those story plots that people are coming to dislike, since it has also meant that unfortunately he's no longer with us, and there's no easy way to identify. I say, but like basically the identification has now just become a thing that happens, which is kind of one of those things that, like, they're making the game more accessible to others, but at the same time they're making it almost less fun, I want to say. So what we can do is, right, because we are a sorcerer and we are no longer using the fire arrows, 50% damage to undead, 1% to fireballs. We now have a attack that we can put here, throw, got 199, and that'll kind of complement what we are doing at the moment. So we don't need to go back to that town portal. We can just basically leave it. It's back down to the Den of Evil. We've got no reason to be there. The next part of the game, the next mission, is further out. So we can just keep going, get that, and there we go. Right, so we need to throw this and then switch to Ice Bolt, because that skill is still being used. But now I also see Okay, we've got a ranged attack. It's not the best, but it does mean we don't need to rely on our mana at the moment, which is, as I said, it's not quite yet where I need it to be. It's quite low, I'd say. Actually, we need to get it significantly higher for the sorceress to become effective enough to become basically a monster, because she does become insanely strong. You just need to get all the right equipment for her, and of course get enough mana. That's why you keep seeing me upgrading and increasing her mana, even though I know there's like other stuff that I need. Like, one of the issues that a lot of people run into with the sorceress is they forget to upgrade her strength and her dexterity, because they think, oh, she's a sorcerer, she doesn't need that. When unfortunately she actually does, because around, I'd say, level 10, a lot of people hit the wall where they aren't able to actually equip any more armors and stuff, specifically because they never upgrade them. They never upgrade their dexterity and their strength. So even if you're a sorceress, by the time you reach level 10 and 20, like higher levels, you need about 20 to 25 strength to actually equip everything. And I'm thinking my levels are way off here, might be much higher, but I do remember running into that constantly when I was playing, just completely being flummoxed by the fact that, oh, I'm a sorceress, but I don't have the strength to wear any new armor, which of course causes just a cascading set of problems, because by that point it's very difficult to level up. Because that's one of the things about this game that's very frustrating to many. You're not going to level up in the same way that you would expect you would level up in more modern games. Like, that's something that I've seen so many people do. They head into the game and they go like, oh, okay, it's Diablo 2, I know this, it's like Diablo 3. When in Diablo 3 it's actually really easy to level up, and it's important, and very importantly, uh, I'd say it's not really needed to balance what you're doing, because the stat points are no longer something that you control. That is controlled by the developers. They do it for you. As you level up, it just gets done. It's an afterthought, which, one hand, fantastic. It means that more people can play the game. On the other hand, I think I probably would have liked to see what Diablo 3 looks like if with the option to actually upgrade my own stats, Because there are certain stats that I'm just like, I like upgrading them. Like a demon hunter, I can imagine somebody would have done a demon hunter in Diablo 3 that's just what's the word? Just speed and very little anything else. Like the necessary to get the right equipment. Okay, so I'm overburdened already. So, but I'm still going to be doing some things here. So right now I'm not in the quest area either. So I probably should have said this earlier. I'm just now exploring some of the areas around Tristram, basically, because I know where the next mission is and I know what we're going to do. We're going to go and fight in the cemetery and probably get one step closer to saving Deckard Cain. And I think saving Deckard Cain is like the third quest. I can't even remember any of them. Yeah, it's like the third quest or something. There we go. Okay, and see, this is one of those things about the game that I kind of don't enjoy. I see my ice shield is worn off, so now I've got to go and replace it, which is, you ask me, control of one of your creatures. Like I was sudden, she's got creatures. So you've got to constantly do that. You can't really quick switch. Also, this is a normal portal. It'll take you to all the other portals in this act, and there's 5 acts. in Diablo 2 with the expansion, obviously, but Diablo 2 Resurrection comes with all 5 acts, so you don't really need to worry. Okay, so these are these are elites again out in the world, and as you'll see, as we kill her, we're about to get a bit more. There you go. See, a bit more than normal. Now, regeneration potions as well, I feel I have to say, is like this is your belt. These are your potions. I probably should have just talked about this earlier. The first, the red ones are obviously health. The blue ones is your mana, right? The rejuvenation potion is for both. And I've never actually, I've never actually met someone that plays with them because the mana potion and the health potion far outstrips the amount of health that you get so much faster. So it's just easier to just balance them. As you can see, I'm doing really well with the throwing knives, and at one point I'm gonna have to go and get more throwing knives because they are limited. But as you can also see, I've been upgrading the amounts of mana that I have, and of course the actual uh blah, 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 actual skill of Ice Bolt. So it's obviously gotten significantly stronger. So if you're wondering how you use the scrolls, you just right click on them, and it'll either let you identify something, or you can just quickly teleport back to town. Now, I don't think I have anything important at the moment. We've got this axe, I forgot about it, and a helmet. So I'll sell these. Wanted Thief, that's Necromancer weapon, so we don't need that. We don't need this. That's our staff. I'm not going to sell the staff because we might need it in the future unless we get a significantly better staff somewhere along here. So superior longsword, maximum damage, attack rating. It's very nice and I want it. But right now I feel we aren't quite ready yet to go attack full time. So there we go. Scrolls of identify. We identify that and we identify this. That's a pretty good helmet. We can keep this with us. I think we may, just for safety's sake. And as you can see, this is another thing that I forgot about. The potions get too much. So for the start of the game, what I recommend is just go to your stash, put a bunch of potions in here. It's not going to do any problems. Right? Also to quick transfer, it's hold Control N, and that will quick transfer your items to your stash for you. And I think that's actually how you sell things as well. Yeah, there we go. Now we can go back to the Cold Plains, and I think we're going to do this case. We're going to complete it, and then we should be done for this episode of Players Parlor. It's a much more relaxed episode. If you are playing along, which I highly, really, really hope you do, you can basically complete Diablo 2 in honestly about 2 sessions if you really want to. It's not a very long game. It used to be a very long game, but modern games are just significantly longer and so much more complex. So that's something that you need to remember. And I wish this game was significantly longer than it was, but it's actually a very short game. And a lot of us that have played Diablo 2 since we were young quite often forget just how short the game actually is, since it is. So I just said something. There we go. Sorry, I just got a little bit distracted again. But yeah, it's not a very long game, and it's not a game meant to last you, I want to say, hours at a time. It is just it became popular because it was one of the earlier games that you could play online. Like there were servers online that you could join, and people could join you, and you could go and join people all over the world and just play in their world and do dungeon raids and set the difficulty really, really high. Like I can remember the first time we actually tried it. Also, I've just before I continue here, I've currently set it in the settings that when I press Alt, the items on the ground show up. Obviously, I've added mostly off for this time because I don't want to clutter the screen too much. but that is something that you can go and do, and the game will allow it. I think at default, it's if you hold Alt in, it'll show you the items. If you release Alt, it'll hide them. I don't really like that. I like to see the items at all times so that I know, especially when there's a lot of enemies that I'm fighting, where the items are that just dropped, because the items are the most important things. That's, like I said, it's one of the things that made Diablo 2 originally so popular with people, was the fact that you could play online with friends, and then because the item drop is random, it's truly random. Like, there's no two sets of items that are the same. Like, one guy can have a set of items and they will be completely and wildly different from a set of items that you've picked up with the same name, same area, same level, but the effects that they have will be wildly different. And it's something important to remember, because see, here we go already. So I'll come back to that train of thought about why it's important to remember that playing online was very important for Diablo 2. This is one of the problems that we have with the sorceress, and it's a problem that a lot of people get. I've been upgrading strength because at base it's a 10. I would actually like to wear this, but now obviously I can't. It is a massive upgrade from what I have, I think. No, it's not. It's not even. It's not really an upgrade. Okay, so but no, it is slightly an upgrade, but I can't wear it. It's just that's just how it is. So that's something that you have to remember. If you're playing a character that has traditionally not been linked with strength and stuff, Diablo will punish you if you, I want to say, tunnel vision it, because some of your characters will not be able to do what they should be doing, unfortunately. And it's going to be a challenge for you to get everything that you need. So this is also the lady that can repair everything for us. There we go. We've got full set of throwing knives again. So it's going to be a while before I actually need to get a staff, because I don't think she even has any good staffs for us. But let's get back to what I was talking about, playing online with friends. So if you played with a friend somewhere for a few hours, you could have a character that is significantly stronger than it was when you entered. And it became a thing of nobody wants to play alone, first of all. Everybody just waited for friends. We are way too far, by the way. If you see the frail crow nests, you are a bit off of where you need to be. So people would start playing together and they would start fighting each other. That's like a big thing. Like, you wouldn't imagine Diablo being PvP, but I remember going to a few servers, and when we told them that we wanted to be PvE, they actually told us, listen, this is a PvP server. There's not a lot of people here, obviously, because the servers couldn't handle like 200 people at once. They could only handle like 4 or 5 people at a time. But the people that are there are all, they've been there since the server was created, and they literally just play to get PvP together with each other. They'll actually fight you and they'll come after you, and that's kind of what they do. That's how they're having their fun, and that's all the fairness to them. Something that happened to me and my brother quite often was we join a random world and it would be completely empty. So what would happen is, sometimes, most of the time, if you joined a world, you would be level 1, I think, something like that. There was a reset mechanic, so that if you didn't have an online character, and you get your first online character when you join a server, you're gonna have a small problem of everybody else in that world will probably have completed the entire story, and now you've got a level 1 character running around in a world of PvP. And of course, this is the early 2000s. People weren't always nice when a squeaker came on and was like, listen, I'm trying to play. Obviously, there was no voice chat, but like, it's very obvious that you're talking to a child sometimes. So that's basically the reason Diablo 2 started getting popular, from what I remember. Just the game itself, of course, was also popular. We like to, nerds that we were, we first used Diablo 2's graphic system, because it was really hard on the graphics back then. Like, I mean, the video animation for this game still does look genuinely amazing, and the remastered versions also look fantastic. And as the game started to get more popular and people started playing it more and more, it became very honest. Like, can your computer run Diablo? Okay, yeah, it can Diablo. It'll do the rest of the game. So it'll do Counter Strike, and from there, oddly enough, after that we used Oblivion, which is, now I think of it, probably a game that I also think I want to do on Players Parlor. But preferably, I'm going to have somebody doing that with me. And I think I know exactly who I'm going to ask for that. Okay, there we go. Right. And let's return. We've got 2 items that we need to identify. So this is also something that you need to do a lot. As we get stronger and we get more money, obviously, some items won't be picked up anymore. Like, at first, I'm going to stop picking up white items, which is just the plain items, because there's no reason to pick them up. Like this, see, there's no reason to pick this up. It's got nothing. It doesn't sell for a lot either, and it just takes up inventory. But I start picking up legendary items a lot more as we continue. I don't even think this is legendary. I just think this is like elite. I'm just like trying to think of that as legendary. I don't even know why. Do I have like another skill point? No. So strength, I'm going to put 2 in there, 2 in there, and then another one in dexterity. So that gets a bit better, because I'm kind of enjoying being a thrower. I don't always rely on the sorceress's staffs, and I think I'm starting to remember why. Especially as it's all coming back to me. I think it's always been a slight issue for me having to deal. One of the other things is, right, I can't be dual wielding. Oh, that's one of the reasons I like the barbarian, by the way. The barbarian can dual wield, and it's always fun to do it. He can use 2 weapons at any given time. I think I'm going to buy a better buckler though. And put this and this in there for later usage. Ah, there we go. Normally by now, I would have much more than just the one character. Okay, the game glitched a bit there. Guard level 7. Okay, see. Okay, so we're going to stick with this buckler. I would have bought this, but I'm too low level, and I don't think I'm going to reach the high enough level today. So let's continue. Now, this is like another thing about Diablo 2 that I enjoy, these random caves, because they do genuinely appear randomly. The worst enemy of any sorceress, of course, is archers, because they just completely decimate us. Let me just concentrate for a second here. Okay, there we go. Now I can throw everything that I have on her. There we go. Oh, I missed. There we go. Okay. Of course, these will just be sorted automatically, and those will get picked up. There we go. Now, this cave that I'm in is also randomly generated. Most areas will have a cave of some kind, but the interiors of them are completely randomly generated. Like, nobody knows what's in them until we go in, and that's kind of important for just the overall enjoyment of the game. You know, it creates some differences that makes it worthwhile to replay, which is a big thing about this game, and it's why Diablo 3 did so well, because Diablo 3 built on a lot of what this game has, and I feel it's something that Diablo 4 is kind of missing out in parts, because I'm trying to play it and I'm just not getting addicted. It's the first time that I've ever played a Diablo game where I went, it's not really fun, you know. So if you've been playing along, you should be around I think level 5 or 6. Let's just quickly check. Yeah, level 5. If you move a bit faster than I do, and if you're a bit more experienced, you should definitely be closer to level 7 or 8, actually. My barbarian, I think I spent like 10 minutes on it, and it's already level 5. So how you progress through the game and how you get skills, let me just throw these two out because I'm lost in thought, is going to be different than everybody else. Like, you can play with people and you can have fun, but one of the things that I've seen a lot of people not quite realize is that no two Diablo playthroughs are going to be the same, and Diablo 3 and 4 changed that for me. Like Diablo 3 and Diablo 4, as far as I can tell, most of the experiences are very similar to each other because it's all online. So not even the maps are randomized, it's all the same maps across the board, which is actually a downside for me. Like, I didn't realize that until I started playing the game, and now I'm like, oh, so it's Diablo 4 almost feels more like just a normal MMORPG, if I'm honest, without, some of the mainstays and a lot more story. There we go. Okay. And we're almost done. Let me just pick those up. And I think, yeah, I'm not going to get to the second quest today because I'm just taking a bit slower than I would normally do. We're almost done with the cave. Let's finish up the cave and then we can finish up the episode. This episode of Players Parlor. Next episode of Players Parlor, we've got quite a few things planned actually for different games. I've got a few guests lined up as well. It's just this specific episode of Players Parlor. I kind of decided as well to do it alone because it's a bit more, helps me decide what each episode should be and do the intro. And sometimes it's a bit more fun to play a game alone. Yeah. Okay, so let me just move a bit away from those. Thank you for joining this episode of Players Parlor. I really hope that you enjoyed our little 40-50 minutes adventure into Diablo 2. It is a game worth playing if you've never played it. If you have played it, I would recommend replaying it because Diablo 2 Resurrection, the remake, is very, very good. It does look very nice. It feels a bit slower though because, well, the game is actually quite slow. It's not nearly as fast as Diablo 3 or 4, which are significantly more streamlined and are a lot more story rich, I would say. Diablo 2 has a lot of story, but it's not very driving to the story. Like, our character is just kind of sort of there at all times. So I hope you enjoyed it. That's been this episode of Players Parlor. I hope you guys will join me next week for a much more exciting and also much more indie dev focused. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good day.